Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Thanks for coming and spending another afternoon / evening
our
with
pleasure.
us. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much.
We're always happy to see you come by my beautiful, luxurious space-age pad and have you drop by for the day. We were talking the last time you came by, the three of us and you, were talking about the righteous conduct or good conduct between us and our wives, or me and my wife and them and their future wives, inshallah. And we talked about words. But there's always, if words get exchanged, sometimes there's some actions. So it reminded me of the words of Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, where he said, I like to make myself beautiful for my wife so that she makes herself beautiful for me. The translation's mine. But
Sure.
this is what he reminded
And he
me.
commented on that by reciting an ayah which says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And for them, rights similar to those which are upon them towards their husbands. So exchanging a good conduct is one of the concepts of having a happy and a blessed married life. That's essential. You know. I remember amongst the nice stories that the Prophet ﷺ, once he entered Al-Madinah, he established the concept of the brotherhood between the immigrants and Al-Ansar, the supporters. And he established, of course, among that brotherhood between Abu Darda, may Allah be pleased with him, and Salman al-Farisi. So they were very, very close friends and brothers. So once Salman came to visit Abu Darda in his house, and he wasn't there, but his wife was there. And she looked dressed up in a shabby clothes. So he asked her, what is the matter? She said, nothing wrong with me, it's your brother, Abu Darda. He said, what happened to him? She said that he's not interested in any worldly, luxurious life anymore. So he understood what she meant. So he made a point, and he waited until Abu Darda arrived. And Abu Darda offered him the food. He said, I'm not going to eat before you eat with me. He said, I'm fasting. He said, no, you've got to eat with me. So he made him break his fast before sunset, and he joined him, and he ate with him. Then at night, Salman decided to spend the night at his house. And Abu Darda had the habit of getting up at night and praying. So he wanted to pray as normal. But Salman said, Abu Darda, go to sleep. He said, I want to pray. He said, go to sleep. And he ordered him. So he did, hoping that Salman would sleep so that he can get up and pray. That happened several times throughout this night until it was before Fajr. Sometime before Fajr, Salman al-Farisi woke him up and said, let's get and pray. So they started praying, and afterward, Salman al-Farisi gave a very nice advice to Abu Darda, and of course to all of us, saying, Ya Abu Darda, know that Allah have rights upon you. That's a fact. Your wife too have rights upon you. Your body have rights upon you to rest, to take a break. And your guest to have rights upon you. So give everyone their due rights. So Abu Darda in the morning can't wait. He went to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was very upset that he had to break his fast and he missed praying at night. So the Prophet ﷺ heard the story and heard what Salman said to him. So by the end, the Prophet ﷺ remarked it saying, Abu Darda, Salman have spoken the truth. So that's also the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, that you have a wife at home, you have to take care of her. You have to give her some of your time. You have to do something that make her feel that you're there.
And that hadith shows us a lot of different things. It shows us the way, first of all, how you need to treat your company, which is something that we don't do anymore. Well, I don't. You guys can testify.
And it shows
and the way
us,
you treat your wife.
and it also shows us something which rarely happens nowadays, which is that the companions were too much into ibadah, to the point that some of them even neglected their wives, which of course nowadays
it's the other way.
it is the other way around. Once there was a companion by the name Uthman ibn Mad'un. May Allah be pleased with him. He was married to a woman. She used to visit the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. She once came to Aisha, and she was looking with unkempt hair, and she was really not, in shabby clothes, not wearing, the eyeliner, al-kuhl, where this is one of the best adorning tools. So they asked her that your husband is the richest one of the Arab. How come you're looking this way? She said, it's because of him. He totally forgot about me. He's not interested in this life, indicating that he doesn't have a relationship with her, other than just being at home sometimes. So they took the case to the Prophet ﷺ, who got hold of Uthman ibn Mad'un, and he said, Ya Uthman, wouldn't you like to follow me?
Yes, I would.
I said, sure, I would love to. He said, then Ya Uthman, صم وأفطر, قم ونم. Fast on some days and skip some other days, take a break. And pray at some parts of the night and rest at the other parts of the night. Yani, keep balance and take care of your family. They have rights upon you. So a few days later, after the Prophet ﷺ advised Uthman ibn Mad'un with this beautiful advice, there came his wife to visit the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, looking nice, with eyeliner, dressed up nicely, with comb hair. They said, what's up? What happened? She said, well, whatever happens to people happened to me. That things have become normal back. So it is very, very important. And this advice is from the Prophet ﷺ, not to think this is an outlaw and I should be in ibadah all the time, or as many of us do today, that work is taking me completely. I come home dead. I even don't have time to do anything with myself, with my family, with my wife. No, they do have rights upon you.
One of the interesting things I've heard of that the Prophet ﷺ used to do before entering his home, he used to use the miswak so that his mouth will smell good. And all of us knows what's behind that.
And you know what his wife said?
Yeah.
She said that he would do that, he would do that to prepare himself to kiss and hug his wives. So he would prepare himself, clean up his teeth, and freshen the smell of the mouth by the miswak. You can always use any tool like a toothbrush or toothpaste, but miswak is best, of course, because you receive a reward for that. Preparing himself to kiss and hug his wives upon entering the house.
Didn't he, Rasulullah basically also tell us if we're on a journey to give our wives, to send a message, it's like nowadays, you can boop, 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 and you could call her and say, hey, I'm on my way home, I'll be home, and to let her get a chance to get herself fixed up, get the kids fixed up, get the house fixed up.
This is one of the etiquettes which the Prophet ﷺ prescribed and enjoined upon us, which I can categorize it as beneath actions, good conduct. That once the Nabi ﷺ was traveling, and along with him there was Jabir, the great companion, Jabir ibn Abdullah. He had recently got married, and he was anxiously ready to get to enter al-Madinah, to go to his wife and so on. So Nabi ﷺ ordered them to wait, not to surprise them. And he sent messengers to inform the wives that they have been already here in al-Madinah, to get ready. So Nabi ﷺ informed us that if someone was traveling, he should not surprise his wife with his arrival. Rather, he should inform her. Nowadays, we have all the means of communication where you can really inform her via phone or an email, etc., that I'm on the way, I'll be arriving at such and such time, so that she will fix herself up, fix the house. Nabi ﷺ said that so that a woman whose husband had been away for some time would clean herself up, and dress up nicely, and are you okay? Yarhamukumullah.
Yeah, I'm sick like
you need soup.
Now we have been talking to men and advising them what to do. What about women? Because I've heard some men complaining because once he gets to the house, his wife complains this time, the kids have done so, and the onions come from here.
Very common.
Yeah.
Especially those who are obsessed with the love of cooking.
Yeah.
The smell of the kitchen is all over. Once, and by now all of you know enough about Sulaym, may Allah be pleased with her.
Amen.
She was also the mother of Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu ta'ala anhu arda. Her husband was Abu Talha. They had a son who was very, very sick, and Abu Talha had to leave for some business. So as he came back, first thing he asked about their sick son. She said that he's better than before. He's in complete rest. Meanwhile, she had adorned herself, fixed herself up, dressed up nicely, and she had fixed a nice dinner for him. So he ate and drank, and of course she invited him to bed, and they had an intimate relationship. Then afterward, she gave him a nice introduction to the upcoming news. She said, my lovely husband, our neighbors borrowed something from their neighbors. And when they want it back, they said no. He said, no, they shouldn't do that. That's haram. She said, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have asked for the trust which He deposited with us, and He took it back. Shall we say no? He said, what do you mean? She said that our son have died. Allah gave us a son, Allah took him back.
Unbelievable.
So, Abu Talha was going crazy. Not only for losing his son.
She did this to me.
She did that to me. She made me eat and drink, and instead of crying and screaming, instead of being sad and angry, that she made me eat and drink. Not only that, embrace her sexually too. In the morning prayer, he went to the Prophet ﷺ to complain about Sulaym, the wise wife. May Allah be pleased with her. So the Prophet ﷺ was kind of delighted with what he heard, the conduct, the way Sulaym handled this issue. And the Prophet ﷺ made a beautiful dua for them. He said, so that you have embraced her. He said, yes. You see what she did to me? So the Prophet ﷺ said, may Allah bless you both in your night. Out of this night, she conceived and she had a beautiful son, whom once they received, they give him to the Prophet ﷺ to do the tradition of the sunnah with the newborn and so on. A smart, intelligent wife can do a lot to make life happy and to make her husband and herself and the entire household live a happy and a blessed life.
I wish all Muslim women are listening to you right now.
And Muslim men too.
That story is one of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard in my life, because it's a good way to deal with everything. You say, well, Allah wanted His deposit back.
There was a hadith narrated by the Prophet ﷺ that every spending of yours, you receive a reward for it. For instance, you buy yourself clothes, you buy yourself something to eat. As long as it is from a lawful earning, and you spend it in a lawful means, buying lawful things, without being extravagant and wasteful, that you receive a reward for it. And he further added, including that the bite which you put in the mouth of your wife. How beautiful is it that you feed your wife, you feed your children,
Reward.
and the meter of reward is counting.
You're sick.
Talking about
I'm
food.
sick. Yeah. Why don't we go get some
Soup?
some soup or something like this, inshallah, and then we'll come back and we'll talk.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
The Prophet ﷺ have informed us that we should not obey no one on the account of disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the superiority is to Allah's command. So if the husband tells his wife that I want you to shake hands with my colleagues, with my business partners, no, even if it leads to divorce. If the husband says to his wife that you have to party with me, with partners and so on, no, you have to take your hijab off, no. By any means, communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your language, and He will be very happy to answer your dua. Talking about exchanging good conduct and showing good actions and so on, there is a view which I love to picture. I love to picture in my house. I love to picture in the house of every Muslim family. It is the view of the Prophet ﷺ standing, and Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, standing behind him. She's placing her head on his shoulder next to his head, because she was watching from her room. He was covering her with his clock, watching what?
Watching
that his room was opening to the masjid. The Abyssinians were playing and showing, making a show with their spears in the masjid. And Aisha was very, very excited to see that.
In the masjid?
In the masjid. And the Prophet ﷺ, keeping in mind that he was the busiest man on earth, ever, that he's allowing all the time for Aisha to watch at her convenience. And then when he says, Ya Aisha, is it enough yet? She says, no, 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 some more, some more. And the Nabi ﷺ is waiting. She's reclining, she's watching and enjoying the company of the Prophet ﷺ and enjoying the show, until she said, enough, I'm bored now. So Nabi ﷺ said, okay, enough is enough. After she said enough, showing good conduct and showing that you're willing to do anything that's halal and possible to please your wife, that will be met with the same, you know?
No, I agree with that. If you're like, I know if I'm nice to my wife and I do something nice for her, then she wants to do something nice for me. Like if I go and I...
Exchanging gifts?
Yeah, if I go and I buy her, say, flowers, and I come home with some flowers, then she's like the happiest woman on the planet. If I come home empty-handed, she's like, where are the flowers? But if I come home with something nice, you know, even if I pick up something I know she needs from the store, even if it's something, you know, small, she's very happy, and then she wants to do more for me to help me out.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, sometimes at your spare time you say that, I'm going to help you in the kitchen today.
Hey, who says this? Not me.
Giving preference is one of the qualities of the believers. Al-ithar, giving preference to others over yourself.
Helping her get the kids dressed,
You know,
changing diapers.
it's more worthy to have it with your wife at home, to love for her more than what you love for yourself, so that you would have the same from her as well. Once the Nabi ﷺ addressed his companions and said that it's not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah in the last day to travel alone without a mahram, a male relative from her family members. So a man stood up and said, Ya Rasulullah, but my wife is going for Hajj and I'm deployed to such and such battle. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go with your wife, catch up and join your wife, don't you leave her alone. Taking him from a very, very important thing.
From jihad fi sabilillah.
To join his wife, not to let her to travel alone, to go for Hajj, travel with Muslims. He has to go with her is a very, very important thing that we really should keep in mind. Sometimes a child is very sick and the wife doesn't drive, or she does. I know that you're tired, but why not join her and take both of them to the clinic, know exactly what's going on, showing that the wife, even though you're tired and you're busy, that you care, and you give them preference and precedence to anything else in your life.
You gotta do sacrifices.
Yeah.
It shows the real love.
You know, Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu arda, Dhun Nurayn, the man with the two lights, because he was married to
Two daughters of the Prophet.
two daughters of the Prophet ﷺ, one after another. The first one was
Ruqayya.
Ruqayya. May Allah be pleased with her. Do you know that Uthman ibn Affan did not attend nor witness the battle of Badr, the most important because it was the first, with the
Yes, he
Prophet
was.
ﷺ? Do you know that?
No.
A lot of people hold this against him, but they don't know the fact that Uthman ibn Affan, the Prophet ﷺ ordered him to stay with whom?
With his wife.
With Ruqayya, because she had a fever and she was very sick. And by the way, she died after that in this illness. So the Nabi ﷺ ordered Uthman to stay with his wife and to take care of her and not to join him. What could be better than supporting the Prophet ﷺ and defending him? However, when his wife was sick, he ordered him, Ya Uthman, stay and take care of her.
Inshallah, we need to be more like Uthman. Because, I mean, it's really easy to say, you know, I've been home, like with my wife. I mean, I hate to throw my dirty laundry out there. But I'm always like, haha, your job never ends. Haha, I get 2 days off a week, but your job 7 days a week, 24 hours. Haha, you know. But more men need to help out around the house, myself included. You know, help get the kids ready,
But-
take them to
But
school.
there's still the same problem, like a brother mentioned before, the manhood problem. There's still a lot of brothers that have this traditions or
Machismo.
Let's change that,
yeah,
make it religious,
exactly.
not traditional.
They think it's bad if you help the wife in the kitchen
Mm.
or you help her. You can't talk about it.
What about this? Take this very pleasing, soothing story, which was narrated by Imam al-Bukhari. It's a very, very authentic one. Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that he have seen the Prophet ﷺ doing the following. That he was traveling with Safiya, his wife, may Allah be pleased with her. So Nabi ﷺ sat next to his camel, and he put his knees, so that Safiya stepped on his knee to get on the back of the camel. And Nabi ﷺ is making his body and his knee as a step so that Safiya would ride on the back of the camel. You have seen him while he's taking care of her and covering her with his cloth, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And very, very few people who do that, opening the door of the car for your wife to get in, making sure that she's safe and that the children are safe, then you lock the doors or close the doors.
Very romantic.
Very romantic, and since you're a poet, a big poet, you should have made some poetry about that.
And it brings me to...
that would really inspire you.
It brings me to ask about emotions. What do emotions play into this? What are the roles of the emotions of a man and a woman? Women are creatures of emotion and men are creatures of thought. So how do emotions play into this?
Remember when we talked about exchanging good conduct, we said that it consists of three things. Saying,
Actions.
actions. And
emotions.
Which do not necessarily sometimes require saying or acting. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam showed the best example in a very important situation. His wife Khadija had passed away, and now he's married to a very young and a pretty woman, Aisha. But Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha ardaha says that I have never ever felt so jealous of any woman as I did of Khadija, even though she died 3 years before the Prophet ﷺ married me. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ would remember her oftenly, and once her name would be brought up, endless admiration. He would praise her and admire her and talk very good and very high of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha. And he would say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conveyed the salam to her. Jibreel conveyed the salam to her and informed the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that Allah has built a house of pearl for Khadija in paradise. No. So Aisha was very jealous that, what do you care about a woman who is very old, who died, and Allah have given you much, much better than her? So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam objects and says, no, by Allah, wallahi, no one is ever better than Khadija. No compliment on that account, even though she is dead. Khadija, she supported me when no one else did. Khadija was my best friend. Khadija, 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 and he keeps counting countless good qualities of Khadija. May Allah be pleased with her. To the point that the Prophet ﷺ would slaughter a sheep, distribute it in a charity, and preserve a portion, divide it, and say, give this to such and such, and give this to such and such. You know who are they?
Her family.
Khadija's friends. And Aisha would be very upset. Young girl, But later on, she realized that that is the best way, because she also got a share of that. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
But since we're talking about emotions and love, a problem could happen because of a man loves his parents more than his wife, and she will start complaining. He loves his parents than he loves me, and she wants to hold him to control him all the time.
In the past, being born in the Middle East, I used to think this problem is only common in the Middle East. But it's not only in the Middle East, it's in the West, in the States too. A lot of marriage problems, the cause is that the wife wants to keep the husband for her. And she wants to sever his relations with his parents, with his family members, because he's all mine.
You hear him say you need to cut those apron strings, meaning that the mom has her apron tied around them and is pulling them back.
So how this equation could be solved?
One was telling me that every time he says, let's go and visit my family, I have a stomach. I'm not feeling well. The kids are sick. We can go, and so on. And for any reason, change the plan, let's go for dinner, let's go out, and so on. Everything is back to track. my advice, number one, to the wife, to keep in mind that your husband is a piece of jewel, was given to you as a gift by this very mother-in-law. She bore him for 9 months. She gave birth to him. She raised him for almost 20 years or more. And after taking care of this beautiful diamond and giving it to you, the least is to say,
Shukran.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
Same applies for a man who
Showing
doesn't like his,
gratitude. I understand that some mothers as well feel like, well, I'm just giving this very strange woman my heart, and she's taking all the good without giving me anything, so she would feel that I'm in a competition with my daughter-in-law. It would require a lot of wisdom from this poor man who's happened to be in between. Okay? But the advice should be paid to 3 of them. To the mother, you have to understand that now he's a husband, and he has responsibilities, and he has a wife, and he has maybe kids. They're trying to keep him away and trying to possess him. That's not going to work. And for the wife to try to sever his relations with his family, that's not going to fly, as they say. But we have to understand that keeping good relations is one of the components of good faith, which is salatul rahim, or upholding the ties of your kinship.
Jazakallahu khairan, ya Shaykhna. That was an absolutely beautiful dars that we took part in. And I'd like to thank the brothers for rolling up as usual. You guys are cool in the gang, and I appreciate that. Shaykh, Jazakallahu khairan. And until the next time we get together, I want to say assalamu alaikum to all of you brothers.
Thank you so much. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah bless you and your family.
Ameen.
Ameen.
See you inshallah next time.
I'll grab
Assalamu
that.
alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Real handshake.
Ba-da